things that when you're creating a module, you should know that okay, you should understand this be included. Okay, module format. So first thing is, you can use any development language you want to use. You can use Python, Golang, Java, C++. But because Python is the most, because already most of the modules are in Python. So for this session, I'll be using Python. So these are the things which you should include when you're creating your own module. First is Python shebang, which I believe all of us know what that is. Again, copyright is basically if you're creating, if or someone is creating, they should give us their mail or their contact information. Then the documentation block, which will come to so these are the important blocks which we have. Documentation block, example block. Example block is basically an example of the module of Ansible play, how it should be, this module should be called. And return block is one of the important thing is, so after running the play, uh, what format of the what format the module is going to return. Is it going to be a list, is it going to be a text, or is it going to be a text of list or a list of text. This is very important for further plays and everything. So this is a general, the standard Ansible defined format to create a module, and it generally comes in its, in this serial only. So the third thing is like it's a simple thing. Is basically the module that you're creating. You should have this definition if it is going to be a local module or a global module. So local module is basically which a user is going to use within that project itself. So if it's a local module, it's better to place the module within the project in library folder and define it in your Ansible.cfg definition. If it's a global module, so you can actually place it in your Ansible local folder, which might, it depends on your installation where your local folder is. You can just place it in that module, and you can call that module from any playbook. So if I go back, if I okay, so this is just basic things. Let me go to the code itself. Let me know if anyone has any questions regarding anything.
I think we are good. Yeah,
Yeah,
you stopped sharing, right?
yeah, I'm sharing my VS Code screen. Just a second.
Okay, okay, sure, sure. Guys, please just ask questions. Anything? Yeah, no formalities. Thank you.
Okay, just let me know when my screen is up on screen. Hello.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, yeah,
Can you? Yeah, you can see VS Code on screen, right?
yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so for today's purpose, for this session, I've just created three simple custom modules which will target three different kind of problems. So if you see the architecture, how I've defined is there's one basic, one play, so which is this, and this is just calling two different modules. So in my local ansible.cfg file, because these for me these are local modules, so in my ansible.cfg I've defined my library path. So it's basically you can create your module and save it anywhere and just define it in your library path, and that will do the job. So going back to the module, so so this is the most basic custom module. This is basically from Ansible doc itself. So just if I just go, go quickly about the structure. So you see, first thing is the shebang, the Python shebang about, which Python environment to be used. So if you're using, let's say if you're sure that you need Python 3, so define your Python 3 shebang or like 3.7, 3.9. Then it's the meta information about the copyright of the developer. Then there is documentation. So these are the things that documentation involves. First thing is documentation, which gives the basic understanding of of this module, like why this module should be used, where should this be used, should it be used on the local host or should it be used on the target host, and your versioning itself. These are the basic documentation that that Ansible requires. Then example is basically how the module should be called from the playbook. So it's like it's a very basic thing. So what this play is to I mean module is doing is just taking one name, for example, let's say hello world, and printing the length of the length of the string as well as the same string as well. So this is the basic way of calling this module. So you need to give this example, and then the return code is basically the structure, what the after running the play, what is going to the output of it. So if you see, this is going to like as output, it will give this dictionary, right? So this is the basic requirement, basic documentation, or best practices to say, right? Now coming to the requirement of code, so if you have installed Ansible, if a new system, if Ansible is running, you do not need to do any kind of pip install or anything. So Ansible, when you install Ansible, you also get this module underscore utils library. So from this, this utils library has a lot of module development things. So for this module per se, we just need one lib, which is Ansible module. So it's basically you can call this Ansible module. Okay, going back to this. Okay, yeah. So if you see, this is the basic structure of a Python code coming to this module. So how we have defined is this, that this module arc is basically defining what are the arguments that we are going to get as input. So this is important, and it's important that you make this structure very uh, this structure should be well defined. So if you see, this is very simple. So we are just importing one name. So how generally Ansible works is basically is a best practice per se, that whatever input you're taking, take it in dictionary form, and whatever output you're giving, that should also be in dictionary form. I mean, a dictionary object, right? So what we're doing, we are making sure that the name that we are getting, it should come in a dictionary form. So we are defining if this is a required input or not. So required true, is self-defined. Required true is basically this has to be there, otherwise my module will fail. And required false is basically for those for those arguments which are not that important. Type is again self-descriptive. So this is my input. Result will come back to this, and then this is basically this is basically Ansible module. When my Ansible play is calling this module, this part will work first. So whatever I'm getting, that will be passed into this Ansible argument underscore spec list. So sorry, not list, a dictionary. So let's say, for example, the name is only coming, right? So module underscore args is basically a dictionary object which will be going to this argument spec, and this we can use in our in later code, right? Supports check mode. It depends on what kind of code is that. So if let's say if you need check mode, so check mode is I'm sure everyone knows what check mode is, but just to say, check mode is basically when you want to check your code, so it will check everything. If everything is running fine, no error, but will not make any changes. So changes will be false, but it will just give you if your playbook is fine or not. So this is just to do that. So now coming back to the later part. So what it is doing, so it's basically if you're running, okay, so this is the way you import the call the Ansible module and import whatever inputs are coming. And this is the way you exit JSON is basically the way you give the output, right? So it can be exit JSON or exit error. So when it's doing exit JSON, is basically it's giving the output, and my playbook will understand it that the module run was fine, there was no error. So let's say if the check mode is fine, so what it will do, it will just check everything. Okay, the code is running fine, and give the output. So if you see what's the result, so result is basically a dictionary. Again, the output dictionary. It's the default dictionary that we have created, right? So it has nothing. So it's basically what check mode is doing. When check mode is true, it's checking, okay, everything is running fine, and then just giving a default output which has nothing. But if the check mode is if you're running it the running form, not the check mode, so what you're doing is basically the Python code, whatever code you want to do. So here is a basic thing that what we're doing, we are just whatever name we are getting, we are sending it back a message. For example, let's say goodbye here. and some random dictionary. So if this dictionary is basically foo bar and a length of original message, it's just example. You can, I mean, for example purpose. So it's a very static and very basic Ansible module. So let's say, so if you see this main.yaml file, so if you see this task, so what it is doing, it is just calling this my test info module and sending some message hello world, and just registering it to a variable and just printing it. So let's say if I go and run this, so I mean this runs fine. I mean there's nothing to go wrong. So if you see, this is this is my result. uh, yeah, so this is my output dictionary, and this is what we are getting as message. So like this is the most basic hello world kind of code or module. Anything have anyone has any question till now?
There is a questions like, can we use the check mode in any playbook like that, or it
Okay.
depends on the module?
Okay, so using a check mode is a best practice, and you should try to use check mode as much as possible. Now it again depends on the use case. What use case is this? For example, if you are just doing some data processing and there is you are not connecting to any device or not making any changes, so you can make your check mode as false. But if your module is going to connect to a device or connect to a target host or a VM and make any kind of changes, then it's good that you use a check mode, so that user whoever is running, he can assure he they can be assured that okay, this module is fine, everything my play is running fine, but there are no changes made. Does that answer your question?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
So I just want to confirm. So this one also depends on the module support, right? Because some modules maybe don't have even we tells the check mode, but maybe the module will not support something like that. Is
No,
there something
because
like that?
no, because you are creating the module, right? So it's up to you if you want that module to support check mode or not,
Okay,
right?
okay, understood. Yeah,
So
thank you.
check mode is actually nothing. So what check mode does is basically, okay, so check mode is basically that you are returning. If you see, so what check mode is doing, you are basically just returning your module.exit JSON before making any changes. So you have checked, okay, everything is running fine, then just okay, just return this. So if you do the same thing after making the changes, you'll get the different thing. So it's basically check mode is basically where you are placing your exit underscore JSON.
Okay, yeah, good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if not, I'll go to another example. Uh, okay, so this is one example. So basically, like for networking folk, so it's basically like I use Ansible a lot for our networking devices, for our routers and switches. So this is one thing that we get a lot. That so for example, let's say this is one. So I am running one command on, let's say, on a router, a Nokia router or a Cisco router, and this is the output that I'm getting, right? So so I'm running one play which is running connecting to the device and running this command and getting this output. Now it's very hard for me to use this output in my another play, because it's completely string, and it's so Ansible has a lot of filters, but it's kind of difficult to use this string and filter it with Ansible. And let's say if I just want to know what is the gateway IP or what is the DHCP server IP, so it's kind of difficult. So what we generally do is we create some parsers and we make it in form of Ansible module. So if you see what I'm doing, like for right now, for just for the sake, what I've done, I've taken this configuration and placed it in this pools.txt file. So if you see what this is doing is basically is just taking this file and sending it to this IP pools module, and this is my IP pools module. So if I go to the IP pools module, how it's working? Yeah, right. So again, we have done an import. So we have imported the Ansible module class. So now we are just using this Ansible import class. So this one, if you see, is just giving me the configuration. So I just need configuration. So I've created one argument spec dictionary. So in which dictionary I'm just asking for IP underscore pools underscore config. So this module, when it's running this play, I will get this pools config. Now once I have this, I can again it says this more sorry, this argument expected as a dictionary, right? So whatever in modules I have, this will come in params form. So if you have worked with Django or maybe or with Flask, so this is again the similar thing, how the dictionary is passed. So what I'm doing, I'm just taking in like data, whatever the config is there. Then I'm checking. So this is kind of error handling. So if you see what is happening, if I'm seeing that there is no data coming, so whatever module has sent, I want to first make sure that the data is valid or not, or even if the data is there. So what we're doing, if data is not there, we are just using module.fail.json. So it will just check if data is there or not. If it is not there, it will just fail. So again, so when we run Ansible plays, we see whenever there is a whenever it fails, it knows that it has failed, and it gives everything in red, and it gives us the standard error message or standard out message, right? So this particular function is used for that. So if this is failed, my Ansible will know that this particular play has failed, and std error message, you will get this particular string. If it's not, it will just go to this function. So what this function is doing, we don't need to understand that. What this function is doing is basically it's just taking this complete this configuration thing and converting it to a readable dictionary or a usable dictionary, right? So once I have that dictionary, after this else part, once I have this dictionary, so this pools is basically a dictionary, then I'm just I'm creating a result quag or dictionary. Basically, so because right now if you see, in this purpose, I'm not making any changes to any machine, neither to my local host or neither nor to my target host. I'm just passing some data and sending a dictionary, so there is no changes. So that's why change equal to false is given as static, and I'm just sending that dictionary as my output, right? So if you see, like if I run this file, so if you see what it's doing is basically just from this particular string, it has converted everything, the required data, into dictionary. So now in my Ansible, in my subsequent place, I can directly use this as my dictionary. So this is one thing, and this I mean, I'm not sure about your work environment, but for me, these kind of modules are very frequent, and we create these modules a lot, and they are kind of very handy in that sense as well. Okay, so this is the second custom module that I've created. All these are very simple modules, just for for basic understanding purpose. Any questions from this module? Okay, I'll take it as no. Okay, this is the third module that I've created. This is again kind of very important. So it's basically what here we are doing. So just to give you what the purpose of this module is, it's basically like in our environment we are completely on premise. So we do our own uh, password, centralized password management. So we use some beyond trust device. So for this, so what happens if if anyone wants to SSH into any machine, no one has the username and password. They have to first go to that password repository, have to check in, and then they will give a time bound password. So this is so if so let's say if we are doing anything with Ansible, we have to first go into this beyond trust device, get that password, then only we can do an SSH. So this involves a lot of API calls. So if you see, like first we have to sign in, then then some other API, then again third API. So just to get a password, we have to hit 5 or 6 APIs first, then only we get the password. So this is something that for every project we need. So this is an example when you need to hit a lot of URIs, and it's kind of difficult or complicated to create URI, just to use Ansible URI module and create the role. So for this, what we have done is it's again the same thing. So if you see, this is the module. What is this? Yeah. So this is the module definition. So we are asking for multiple things. Let's say the what's account name, duration, and whatever inputs are required. So it has the definition, which one is like which one is required or which one is not. So if you see, like, it can work without any of them. So this is just one definition, and once we have it, so we are running in the logical way all the APIs. So this way I have got all my variables from the module input. Now what we're doing is we are running all our APIs. So see, so first is, let's say if the route user is just asking for check-in. Check-in is basically means sign out. So what I'm doing it, so even to sign out, you have to first sign in again. So this will run the sign in API. Once sign in API is done, then it will do a check-in. So check-in is basically withdrawing the password, saying that we do not need the password anymore. Otherwise, if the user is asking for password, so it has to run, first sign in, then you have to run another API, then another API, whatever is coming. So finally, when I have the password or the credential, we are sending those credential as output. This is again the very basic of module. I cannot run this because this is on my local machine and I cannot connect to my lab or dev environment. But I hope that you get the point, like why I've created this module. Like, so this is the last module from my side. Anyone has any questions? Okay, if not, so I mean, from my side, this is it. I mean, just the basic introduction to custom modules.
You have the same GitHub or may you have the same depending on your GitHub or somebody we can record this.
Sorry.
I mean, have the sample modules in the GitHub so that we can record this.
Okay, so you mean to push these modules in GitHub?
Yeah,
That this
yeah.
okay? Yeah. So if you see, let me share my screen again.
I mean, it seems like it is very new for me. Uh, so I
No, it's
just need.
fine. So I mean, even let's say if you're using creating your own module, or if you're using some custom modules like
Yeah,
from community-based modules. So what you do is basically, so if this is my project, if this is my
yeah.
Ansible project. So in this library
And
directory, you
okay,
can just put your Python files here, and
okay.
in your Ansible.cfg file, you can define this path.
Let me back. Okay.
Yeah. So like for example, okay, wait. Okay, can you see my Chrome?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so okay, so like for me in my environment, we use this regularly. But there's one way of using collection is basically you import the complete collection and then you run it. Another way is basically you can just use whatever plugin you want, because it's a huge collection. So
Mm,
putting it in your repo or putting it in your system, sometimes it can be very heavy.
mm,
So what we generally do is whatever module we need, we just take that particular Python file. For example, let's say this configuration backup file. We just take this code and we put it in our that repo. So in that way, it helps us.
okay. Thanks, Jay, for this.
Any other questions?
There is a question from the viewer. something like, is it possible to install OS in physical system by creating custom Ansible module?
Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah, you can do that. Okay. You mean in a bare metal device or in a VM?
I mean the physical one. So of course,
Oh, okay. The sorry, the bare metal. Okay. If the bare metal server does not have OS, you with Ansible you first need an SSH connection, right?
okay, maybe I can contribute a bit. So for the bare metal, for the installation, still you can do it based on the hardware. Like if you have a IPMI connection, or we call it like your ILO or IRMC, iDRAC, whatever the remote connection, you can still do this using API or the supported call. So yeah, some we have already modules like HP ILO. You have some modules which you can use for mounting in ISO. Then after the ISO, you can just automate using the kickstart, like rel kickstart. You boot from an ISO, then it will automatically do the OS installation without asking for any um, parameters. So we call this an unattended installation, right? The rel kickstart or any kickstart. It's possible. So it depends on the hardware as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, if you have specific hardware, yes, maybe we can create the module to do end to end instead of calling individual API and all. Correct? It will work, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of calling the API, I can just create a custom module and I pass this information to, okay, the ISO is these, all those things, and the
No,
module will take
actually,
care of.
okay. Yeah, even in that case, let's say if you are actually installing the OS, right, on your target machine. So let's say here we are using Python, right? So if my Ansible is going to target host and running Python modules, you first need Python on that target host.
No, okay. For that, let's say for the HP module, HPILO module, there are few modules which will support. I mean, you don't need IBs. It will act like a network device. So you just trigger this call, like, okay, mount this ISO, and you call the next command as reboot the system. So it will reboot from the IPMI using the IPMI or the
Understand, understand. So kind of you're running on localhost. Your Python is running on localhost.
yes.
It's creating an SSH connection, just directly running the command.
Yeah, it won't
Understand.
be it won't be the SSH one, but it will be the like HTTP call.
Yeah, understand,
The
understand.
target. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so we still need to provide the
Like
authentication
iDRAC or something.
iDRAC or HP
Yeah,
ILO,
yeah. Okay, okay.
IRMC.
Yeah,
And
yeah. That should work.
yeah, so instead of calling these manually and do these things, still you can wrap with a proper, I mean, custom module and do this in a easy
Yeah.
way, right?
Yeah, so in that case, Yogesh, like if you're using iDRAC, so like I've created some modules on for iDRAC to
Okay,
which go use HTTP and install the OS.
okay, okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I think that's more clear now. Okay, yeah, still open for questions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or anything else to discuss on the related one? Maybe Utkarsh, you can share something like the module one. So usually what is the best practice like when you are planning to create a new module? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, when you want to, I mean, when you think about them, so usually we search in places A, B, C, then if you don't find, you just create a new module or just we customize the existing module. What is the best practice?
Okay, so how we do it is basically there are a lot of services that we create in-house, right? Or we have some appliances from companies which do not have Ansible modules. So in that case, we have to create an Ansible module because there are no other modules. Let's say for example we use ant labs and some other appliance, so we need to. Second thing is, again, as I said, that there are sometimes there are things which you do with Ansible role, or let's say which which need like 10 or 12 tasks to create a single thing, and you need that again and again. So if you have some kind of dependency, so you don't want to create or call that role on again and again. You just create that module and put it in your global directory, basically .ansible slash plugin slash module. So now it becomes a module. So for example, this URL thing that I said. So let's say if you are doing something with VM, vSphere, let's say, and so let's say you're creating a new VM on vSphere using your URI module in Ansible. Even to do that, you have to first do 3 or 4 URI calls. Now you don't want that to do again and again in, let's say if I'm creating 5 different Ansible roles and all of them need that have that dependency. So if you have the dependency in your multiple roles, it's better to convert it into a module. Third thing is, let's say if you have a larger dependency which involves multiple roles, let's say for a particular thing you need 5 or 6 roles only, and you're using it multiple times, or you have different teams, like distributed teams, and they need that role. So it's rather than using that role, the playbook or role directly, it's better to convert it to a collection, like convert it to modules and then into a collection, and then use it in that way. It because Ansible is procedural, right? So the as many tasks or playbooks you are involving, it will become slower and slower because it's procedural. So the more you convert it to modules, so it becomes it actually becomes much faster. That's my observation. So these are the things, at least these are the things for me when I go and convert something into a module. And the most important, like one important part for me is basically we do a lot of string conversion or string processing. So if you go to Ansible filters, so they're like very basic filters, right? Like JSON, string, or YAML, right? But if you want to create a filter, it becomes a bit complicated with Ansible. So it's much useful to just create a module for it. I mean, you can create a filter as well and put it, but I mean, the other way is you create a parsing module itself, which helps a lot. So it actually depends on that. But I mean, yeah.
Okay, understood. Okay. I think we have more questions. I'm still waiting for questions. Anyone, anything you want to share or you want to ask? One more thing, I just want to ask for on behalf of the team, uh, because we are doing this in Python, right?
Yeah.
So, what are the other supported languages for creating Ansible modules?
Okay, so I think you can use any language you want. Let me just open up the Ansible's web page. Just a second.
Okay.
Just let me know when you can see, when the screen is up.
I think still loading. Wait.
Okay.
Okay, we can see the Chrome.
Yeah. Okay. So if you see, this is the Ansible documentation. So if you see, mm, looking for supported languages. It's not here. Okay, I'll find it out. But as per my understanding, you can use any programming language, be it Python. I use Python and Golang. So I'm sure about it, but I'm sure it supports Java as well as Java, C++ as well.
See, if you use Java, then how do you think you will integrate it with the, like, you're calling that module, or you are calling that thing, right? If
Right.
you add
So
it under a role, it would be like a small. It's not. It cannot be called as a module, right? I mean, you would be using as a library or a
it's similar. It's similar to how you're using just Python, right? So, example, in how we're making in Python, we are importing the Ansible library, and from that we are importing Ansible module class, right? Similarly, Ansible has classes for Java as well, so you can just call that class and can do the complete code in Ansible. So it will run exactly the same how you're doing in Python. Just save that Java file into your library folder.
that's what it's under your library, right? Not under the actual module.
No, not in,
Uh,
no. If you can put it in the inside your actual module as well. I've never tried that.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I just found a document from Red Hat. I just paste in the chat. Maybe
Sure.
it says yes. You can use any module, but support. I also don't know how these things work. I put in the chat actually. You can see that. It says Ansible module can be written in any language that can return values like in JSON format. So you can use anything like a Ruby, Python, Bash. Yeah. So Windows automation modules are even written in PowerShell. They say, okay, good to know.
Yeah, Ruby, Python, Bash, you can use any.
Okay. Yeah. But you
So is it mandatory to return the? I mean, like the JSON or particular format, or is
Yeah.
it
So
like
to return actually you have to return JSON.
yeah. So yeah, the return format should be in JSON, right?
Yeah.
That's not anything Ansible can handle like that.
Yes.
I think it's the same for like the dynamic inventory. So you can use any language, but you should return in a specific format. So module also same, I
Yeah,
think.
actually, if you see, so when you're writing it, so whatever you get, your input as well. So from your YAML file, when it's sending everything to your module, right, it actually converts everything to JSON. So what you're receiving, your argument that you're receiving, they're actually in JSON. And when you're sending the your final output, it again the YAML it actually passes it as from JSON itself.
Okay, that's good. One more thing on behalf of the team. So uh, for the module testing, let's say we have created this module.
Yeah.
So do you have any system or workflow for testing this module, like best practices, index, all those things? Is there anything like that?
Absolutely.
Or
So again, so testing for testing, the best practice. So testing you can do on two levels. First on Ansible level, second is on your module level, right? So it's always better to do the testing on Ansible level. So in roles you create tests, right? Like your molecule based test if you're creating, or whatever string based test. If you want to do in module itself, what you can do is you can after this run module, you can call for some unit tests. So basically you can call an assert class and check for particular things. But
oh,
my recommendation is to use like I believe everyone uses tests in Ansible itself, right? So my recommendation is I mean that I follow that pattern to use test within Ansible itself, not in module.
okay.
But if you want, you can create unit test after this function. You can create unit test.
Okay. Understood. Okay.
So I mean, if you can see the screen, so if you see what you are coming back to the same question. So your import, it's a dictionary. So whatever arguments you're getting is a dictionary, and similarly the output that the output that you're giving is again a dictionary.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
I think good. So yeah.
Okay, I think then we can close this call, right?
Yeah, I think we are good. And if any question, yeah, we can ask in the group or anywhere. Just see you have more questions, and we can solve it later. Do you have any reference other than the Ansible documentation to start with module like something
Yeah,
like?
so what I'll do, I'll share multiple links and talks and some Git repositories as well in the WhatsApp chat.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. I just put there, so we will put in the reference.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'll do that.
So because I know so many wants to start with the modules because some of the devices or some of the items the modules are not available, and or most of them using the raw commands using shell or command.
Understand. And so I think in our initial plays and roles, we have done a lot of usage of Python and Shell, but not in module form.
Okay.
But I mean, this is my recommendation. It becomes much easier if you convert it to module.
Correct, true. So it's easy to build, and yeah, we will put that somewhere to refer. And yeah, I think good. We are good then. If no other questions, I think we can end the session. And yeah, no other questions, right? Just checking once round again. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, I
thank
think
you.
we are good. And thanks a lot, Utkarsh, for this sharing. And yeah, thank you for
Thank you everyone for joining.
yeah, thank you. We will meet for another session soon. Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks a lot
Thank you
for
all.
arranging this, Ganesh.
So,
And Utkarsh, thanks for your explanation.
yeah, have a great weekend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Everyone, thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks.